baby or a dog or ironing and cooking and cleaning. It's a very specialised skill to do it properly. And that is not recognised, and we just don't have a system for that. So I think that there's really an enormous amount of potential for that as a growth area, but more particularly as a way to just provide better support for people. Thank you for
Thank you very much for your talk. It's very interesting. I'm just wondering, because it looks like to me that those old people, they went to like Zhaoqing or Dongguan for old age care. It still kind of looks like to me that they take the policies or the welfare of the Hong Kong then to the mainland cities. But the mainland cities, what they offer from the shortcuts, it still looks like to me much based upon the system of mainland cities, their own development. I just wondering whether if there's a kind of integration, or maybe you call it policy learning, that's happening in mainland cities, that because of this kind of retirement migration, that they try to learn from maybe the medical system of Hong Kong, or maybe the social care system of Hong Kong, that makes not just this kind of integration easier for Hong Kong people living in mainland, but also better for the mainland cities. Whether there's this kind of example.
That's a very, very good question, and it does raise a certain kind of equity as well. Is it fair for Hong Kong to essentially dump its problem somewhere else? Right? Is it fair on the receiving cities who are effectively going to have to pay? You're paying twice, because of course the problem with retirement migration is that unless you are a net contributor to the economy, if you're taking from the economy, you're paying twice because you've not paid any tax there, or you've not made any in-kind contribution over your working life. So there definitely is an issue. In terms of policy learning from one place to another, there's not really a lot going on in that sense. It seems to be quite siloed. It seems to be certain municipalities with certain ideas, certain policy innovations which are then being brought out and being developed. The other obvious thing to say is that there's not that much learning to do. I don't think our policy is very good at the moment. So the learning is not such a practical thing. But there certainly doesn't seem to be any integrated model or integrated framework of handling either replacement migration or this portable assistance. But I think that if we're going to develop that in the future, that's really got to live together more. It's got to be more holistic, and it's got to be fair. It's got to be fair as well. But this is really good.
Okay, is there another question? Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for your wonderful talk. You've given a recommendation on the care system, which should solve the labor problems in Hong Kong, which will definitely create more jobs or make jobs here enticing. And looking at the aspect of labor migration, I think this would also attract labor from mainland as well, if the care system here is good and efficient in terms of salary increase. But then, what recommendation will you give to solve the housing problem? Because I don't think that will still solve the housing problem if we're looking at making this more interesting, or making this more effective, basically.
Yeah. So, developing the care sector is not going to solve the labour market, right? This is just going to be one area where I think we can essentially just improve what we have at the moment. Right? And actually, I mean, whether or not, I think in the immediate term, it is not realistic to say that the care sector will be a job which young people really want to go into within the next 5 or 10 years. right? It's going to take a long time because it's so embedded, right? That this view is not, it's a crap job that nobody wants to do, right? But at the very least, I would suggest is that the carers that we have at the moment, our migrant domestic workers that we have at the moment, should be treated with more respect and dignity anyway, but their job can be dignified and improved by better training and better vocational development. And you let the market operate in a certain way. You know, that if you, at the moment, the margin, the difference between salaries of migrant domestic workers is very limited, right? There's no such thing really as a highly skilled migrant domestic worker who can charge a lot of money. But why shouldn't there be a migrant domestic worker who has all the training and has a deep understanding of caring for somebody with dementia, who can therefore command a greater salary? And that's what the market should determine that. Should determine that salary. And so therefore that can become, in terms of labour migration, you would have it could become a more attractive job for people to come in to do. It can also be, I mean, I think we're still a long way away from migration to Hong Kong, for the retired migration to Hong Kong because the costs are so high. Right? But I certainly think that there's a way that we can use it to, as I say, it's improving the system for all at the moment, improving the well-being for all. In terms of the housing situation, well, I don't know. You know I don't know. If I knew the answer to that, I'd be the chief executive. Actually, I'm not allowed to be chief executive. I don't realise. It's not possible. But anyway, but you know what I mean, right? I don't know. And there are certainly people in this university who know an awful lot more about housing policy than I do. But I mean, the only thing I would say is that the other thing to remember is that demographically, our long-term perspective is not going to be massive demographic growth, right? That our population growth is going to stabilise, and then our long-term forecasts are to decrease. Having said that, the problem on the other side is that we have so many, the demand for single-person households is increasing. So this is another another problem with this, a demographic problem with this. And so that's going to be very difficult for us to solve. It is going to be very difficult to solve. There's no two ways about it. And honestly, I don't know the answer. We were going to live in a cave, or we'd just build over the harbour or something. I don't know. But we have. I did hear people seriously talk about living in caves. Right? That was a genuine solution, wasn't it? Yeah.
Put the stuff in the cave and then we claim the land for.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we can everyone live in a cave. Yeah. Well, on that bombshell.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm not sure that was the ending that I imagined for your question and answer session, but here we go. Can we just have another round of applause for Stuart? Stuart already made some connections during his talk to the second keynote this morning by Professor Kaho Mok, who I don't really have to introduce to you, I'm sure. But maybe just to say that while Professor Mok is going to talk about the young people's perceptions and evaluations of the Greater Bay Area, or the development opportunities of the Greater Bay Area, I think a lot of us know Professor Mok as maybe the expert on higher education policy in Hong Kong, but he has really been at Lingnan University the driving force behind research that has been going on around young people, youth transitions, and particularly also the Greater Bay Area. So for me personally, it's quite an interesting and quite a nice opportunity to catch up with all of the different things that he's been working on in recent months. And I'm sure you will benefit just as much as I do. So without any further ado, again, we take it.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Cornish, and thank you, Stuart. for opening the conference with a very important context. And you set a very nice context for today's conference. So my work is much simpler after hearing your speech, because I just present to you a most recent study conducted in April this year as part of the collaboration of the Joint Research Center, as I mentioned this morning, with South China University of Technology. And the topic is calling for regional development and collaboration. And the focus of this research is examining how young people evaluate and perceive the opportunities in the Bay Area development. So the core of the research is about, have you heard about the young people's voice and how they think and how they evaluate the opportunities. From the government side, I think there's no doubt, as Stuart also mentioned, from the national government and also regional governments have been thinking about the way forward would be expanding about the Bay Area development and create more opportunity for the young people to help them pursue their dreams in future, particularly after their education. Would it be the solution? So today I just focus on how, a very simple project. We asked two groups of people in Hong Kong. One is a general public, they range from 18 to 35. Another group of people we interview is basically those students, reading their degree or completing their degree in Hong Kong. The university student, not only coming from the publicly funded university, but other private college and universities. So these two samples show you some, findings. But I want to alert you, this study was conducted before the current circumstances that you and I are facing. So if I conduct the study again, it might have some interesting finding. I don't know. I cannot predict. But it was conducted earlier on before the incident happened in the last couple of months, actually in April. So I think we are living in a world of talking about the challenges of globalization. But at the same time, I think one of the crucial responses is about regionalization of economic development. So I think the Chinese government looked about the economic potential of the Bay Area. So last 2 years, the government in China, initiate the new development blueprint, the Bay Area, and trying to benchmark the Florida Bay, Tokyo Bay, as a kind of development blueprint. Especially, I think the Chinese government has been thinking the way forward for resolving about the youth transition issues that my good friend from UST had just mentioned. Annually in China mainland, produce more than over 8 million university graduates. In what way the labor market could be robust enough to offer job opportunity for those newly graduates from the mainland, especially when the Chinese government has invested hugely in the last 2 decades about knowledge-based economy through university education. In the context of Hong Kong, I think since the handover, up now we can comfortably say that Hong Kong has a very successful transformation economically. We still too heavily relied on the 4 traditional economic pillars, despite the fact that the Hong Kong government has been trying very hard to diversify our economic development through finding new growth points, like recently under this current government, our lady chief executive put more emphasis on innovation-centric entrepreneurship, investing more on innovation, research and development. On this note, as university publicly funded in Hong Kong, we should not complain too much because actually research money has increased and more money being channeled to R&D. But whether this kind of transformation had really turned into real potential and development opportunities for the youth is subject to question and serious research. And it comes to the Hong Kong SL government, vis-a-vis, I think, the regional governments in the Bay Area and national government in Beijing, by putting forth about the new development blueprint for the Bay Area, will you be offering more opportunities? So Bay Area development is a huge topic, and my good friend, actually, George, is a leading expert. I understand that you were appointed by the government in China as an important advisor for the Bay Area development. But my focus for today's this piece of research out of this joint center is looking for something related to you. And we are, as Stephen mentioned, a group of Lingnan colleagues has been working closely together about well-being, particularly looking into the youth transition and youth well-being from education to work. And we are dealing with issues only within this particular area, southern part of China. We are addressing some comparative work because I think youth transition, and especially graduate employment, has become increasingly important, not only in Hong Kong, in Asia, but across different parts of the world. Take example, UCL has a group of colleagues led by Professor Andy Green working on youth transition, and actually he wrote something a year ago talking about intergenerational inequality and showing about how education, housing, and also pension, all this kind of policy area has really widened the gap between the youth and also the elder. It draws a lot from policy implication for we are making social policy intervention in dealing with intergenerational inequality. So we came out from this theoretical and policy context when we conceived this project. So Bay Area, and my friend just mentioned, I won't go into the detail, basically is a kind of mega city and infrastructure development. But I just wonder, hardware is ready, but whether people are ready. This is exactly when Stuart talked about when we are trying to promote Bay Area development through the housing, through education and job. But we cannot just look into the economic dimension without thinking about the social integration perspective, culture and values in particular should be looked at, and how Hong Kong people really think about whether they embrace the regional development opportunity. Okay, this is the issue that we are trying to understand. So Bay Area, again, we are talking about 9 cities in the southern part of China, Guangdong area, plus to SAR, Macau, and Hong Kong. And well, talking about the potential, according to the number, over 66 million of people, potential, I think is a great potential for GDP development. And a few major, industry like finance, and also high-tech development. And talking about Lingnan University, where Stuart nicely complained about the traffic from UST to Lingnan, especially from UST to the new UST in Nansha. But Lingnan is just different. Lingnan is well positioned geographically. Our next door is just next to Shenzhen Bay, 15 minutes from the main entrance. International airport is just close to us, about 20 minutes. So the big bridge Macau, Zhuhai, okay, and Hong Kong, the exit is in Tuen Mun area. So to us, there's a reason that my colleagues don't complain to me. Maybe the opportunity for you guys will be moving beyond the border across 15 minutes. Okay, I learned that from Tuen Mun area there's a harbor tunnel. Okay, from Tuen Mun to the beach area to the airport. So in terms of infrastructure, it's very well established. But still, when you ask young people in Hong Kong, yeah, everything's ready in terms of hardware. Are you ready to go? This is the question that we want to ask in this particular piece of research. So the research was conducted for March and April this year. We successfully interviewed around the age cohort, 18 to 35 Hong Kong young people, asking 3 major aspects of question. Number 1, perception of development opportunity in the Bay Area, and then the willingness and also the understanding and about the existing policy which are preferential for them to enable them to go to the Bay Area for development. And this is the sample overview. I won't go into detail. We replicate different 18 districts in Hong Kong by finding out over 1,200 respondents, and male and female ratio is 1:1. So the first part, the perception of the opportunity, qualitatively how they think, but willingness is another issue. Let us talk about the perception. So half of them, over 50.9% of respondents showed very positive attitude towards the development in the Bay Area, which is good. Very optimistic, 8.6%, optimistic, 42.3%. And more than half, 51% of the respondents deemed the participation of Hong Kong in the plan are better opportunity for the development. When we ask them about the merging of Hong Kong and GBA area, the development of GBA will provide you opportunity, they agree with this statement. But thinking about, opportunity, but whether they are ready or thinking seriously to go. 50% of the respondents deem it difficult to find an ideal job in Hong Kong, so that's why they think, okay, 35% will think that around 36% they are willing to go, but perception-wise, over 50%, but willingness is about 35-36%. And what are the areas for potential development? So they will identify innovation and technology, finance, professional services, and also cultural and creative industries. These are the areas that the young people being asked about their potential contribution to the work sector there. Okay? And in this particular blueprint rolled out in February actually have two main points. The government in China encouraged Hong Kong young people to apply for a civil service job, and also qualified teachers trained in Hong Kong could also apply for teaching positions in Bay Area. But interestingly, according to our survey, only less than 20% of respondents would think about civil service posts in mainland China, and less than 10% prefer working in China as a teacher. Perhaps because education university is so successful, producing graduates, they are aiming only in Hong Kong because Hong Kong school all grab them. So they don't think about it, they have to go back to the Bay Area for seeking these opportunities. But civil service job is a preferred job in mainland China, am I right? But it seems not very appealing to Hong Kong young people, okay? Where are, the venture area? We list out a number of cities in the Bay Area. Number 1, Guangzhou. Number 2, Shenzhen, not surprising. Other than that, you can see not many people know about other cities except for food or tourism. Why we said so? Because last year we worked with Zhongshan University conducting a similar study, but not asking Hong Kong people in general about the Bay Area development. We found that most people going to the Bay Area is just for two things: food and tourism. And where are they going for? Guangzhou and Shenzhen. Other than that, not many places in the other 7 cities in the Bay Area. So it's very interesting for us to know about how far people in Hong Kong are very familiar with the Bay Area. So when asking about, if they are making up their mind, planning to go to work there, what would their major concern? So these are the issues being raised. They are thinking about the salary, internet restriction, high tax rates, difficult in getting along with supervisor and colleagues. These are the concerns. So we are asking, do they think that the preferential policy supporting them being rolled out by the government in China would make them more willing? Okay, so here people know about that. Nearly 60% of the respondents, they know about this kind of, 特许的政策, preferential policy. But it doesn't affect them very much. They don't think that, because a policy, a preferential one, would enable them to make the mind to work in the GBA. This is the first part of our survey. As I mentioned to you, we asked the general public age from 18 to 35 in Hong Kong about that. And at the same time, we want to test out as a class activity, because in last semester I taught a course, Contemporary China Studies. So I engage my student. Of course, I get all consent from them, okay? I got the approval from ethic approval. And then my students in the class to talk about, the same survey, what would they respond? So we have got the same questionnaire for online survey for starting from Lingnan students, but through Snowball, they talk to their friends, okay, reading their degree in other sister universities. So also during the same period, we found interestingly around 472 university responded successfully, around 44.4 to 55.6 male and female ratio. And these over 400 respondents come from different disciplines. What did they say? Similar to the general public range, age range to 18 to 35, are they optimistic? Similarly, the same, around 40 something, very optimistic, and also similarly agree about the opportunity. But whether they are willing to go, you can see that 35.7 of respondents said they are willing to work in the Bay Area if opportunity arises. They are university students. And which sector? Similar to the young people in general in Hong Kong, innovation and logistics, finance, professional services are much preferred, but lower percentage, even lower than the general public, like only 3.7% they said they would consider civil service job. 6.1% respondents said they would consider teaching position in the mainland. It's even lower than the general youth in Hong Kong. What are the major concerns? Similar, but they vary much about they vary about the major concern of work. And if they work in GPA, Shenzhen would be the area, okay, and Guangzhou similar. What are the major concerns here? Issue of the children's education, unsatisfactory salary, internet restrictions is the top. This is our young people. This is what people think. This is what young people are concerned about. High tax is lower. So I don't think they rate very high about tax, because currently some companies in Shenzhen, for example, they really take care about your tax. If you work there, this doesn't, it won't be a major problem. So only around 33% of the student respondents said they would. They know that Hong Kong residents can apply for the mainland resident permit and enjoy the corresponding public services. And 22.7% of the respondents agreed that the preferential policy can make them more willing. But 39.1% of them say it doesn't matter, even though those policies are in place. And we conduct some kind of high square test, basically about relationship between this variable is very high. Male youth were more likely to agree that there will be more opportunity brought by the Bay Area development. And similarly, when we are talking about the relationship between the variable is higher by that, male are more preferred, especially obtaining higher degree. So I won't go into further detail. I want to put into this finding into a discussion. So putting the above analysis in the recent socio-economic and political context, I think this is time for us to be examined about young people in Hong Kong, whether they are willing or how they perceive to work or live in the Bay Area, whether the Bay Area development opportunity will be the solution. My friends here, this study was conducted before the recent issues in Hong Kong. And there's a lot of misunderstanding or misconception about the mainland, and needs to have a proper contextual analysis. When we talk to people, many young people, they do not really know about the area well. So I'll just say one concrete life example. In my class, in last semester, I have around 30 students in my class, and some of them, I organized a trip to the Bay Area. It's to my surprise, they went to China in Beijing and Shanghai, but many of them did not go to Bay Area. And some of them told me it was their first time going to Guangzhou and Foshan. So without this kind of interaction and understanding, it will be very difficult for people to conceive about the development opportunity. Even though from the literature, megacity and metropolitan development is quite common for global cities. And if I'm wrong, George, correct me. I think Hong Kong as a very tiny place, we very much rely on the hinterland for future development. But from the literature, we argue this type of developments are scientific understanding, but in what way the people are really engaged and embrace this opportunity. So I think it raises a fundamental issue based upon this piece of research about the understanding about the youth transition from education to work. I think it is not only the issue, as I mentioned at the beginning, about the Bay Area. It's a true issue for governments across different parts of the world to think about